Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the second episode of the Forefront DD webinar series 2023, The Future of Supply Chains. My name is Alejandro Figueroa, and I serve as the Director of Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs for Yuma County, Arizona, and I've been given the honor to be your host during this event. The event will serve as a platform for panelists and attendees to engage in a productive dialogue on the future of supply chains in the Forefront DD binational megaregion, which includes the states of Arizona, Baja California, California, and Sonora. These supply chains will need to be more dynamic and be able to predict, prepare, and respond rapidly to new demands. Hola, bienvenidos al segundo episodio de la serie de webinars Forefront DD 2023 titulado El futuro de las cadenas de suministro. Mi nombre es Alejandro Figueroa y funjo como Director de Desarrollo Económico y Asuntos Intergubernamentales del Condado de Yuma, Arizona, y tendré el honor de ser el moderador de este evento el día de hoy. El evento servirá como plataforma para que los panelistas y asistentes participen en un diálogo fructífero sobre el futuro de las cadenas de suministro en la megaregión binacional Forefront DD, la cual abarca los estados de Arizona, Baja California, California y Sonora. Dichas cadenas deberán ser más dinámicas, ser capaces de predecir, preparar y responder rápidamente a nuevas demandas y vulnerabilidades. Next, I would like to describe the format of this panel. Panelists will speak in their preferred language, either English or Spanish. We will have simultaneous interpretation service during the entire panel. Just click on the interpretation button that is located at the bottom part of the screen, and then click on the language of your preference. Los panelistas dirigirán su mensaje en el idioma de su preferencia, ya sea en inglés o español, por lo cual habrá servicio de interpretación simultánea disponible durante todo el evento, en el botón de Interpretation, ubicado en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Para habilitar ese servicio, favor de dar clic en el idioma de su preferencia. The Q&A session is open to the public, and it will take place right after our panelists conclude their presentations. Please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A section of this platform. La sesión de preguntas y respuestas será abierta al público y se realizará después de las presentaciones de nuestros panelistas. Favor de realizar sus preguntas escribiendo en la sección Q y A de esta plataforma. Well, now, as a Yuma County representative and member of the Forefront DD, I would like to thank all the members of the staff involved in getting this webinar ready and to go. And I'd like to, in advance, thank our panelists for their time and their interest in moving forward the U.S., Mexico, and more specifically, the Arizona-Sonora border region. I'll start with introductions now. I introduce our first panelist, Julie Engel. She is the president, CEO of the Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation. In her tenure with the Greater Yuma EDC, she has been directly involved in the creation of thousands of jobs, new workforce training programs for our employers, and the construction and repurposing of new industrial space, which encompasses a capital investment to the region that surpasses $3 billion. Julie's 20+ years career in economic development follows 5 years of local government leadership and 8 years of federal government leadership and policy relations. Julie serves on the Yuma Education Advisory Council and is a board member of Elevate Southwest. Julie is the current chair of the Yuma 50 Defense Coalition, representing Yuma Proving Grounds and Marine Corps Air Station Yuma. She's also a former board member of the Arizona-Mexico Commission. Julie is a graduate of the Economic Development Institute for Certified Economic Development. She obtained CECD certification in May of 2009. Julie is a member of the International Economic Development Council and serves on the Economic Development Research Partners Advisory Task Force. Julie, please take it away.
Thank you, Alejandro, and thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to share some of our logistics information with you today. It's really an honor to be engaged with Forefront ED and my colleague Arturo Fernandez. So I'm going to share my presentation and we will get started. So in 2022, our exports to Mexico increased by 7%, and they haven't been that high since 2015, to the tune of $8.7 billion. And 32%, almost 1/3 of those exports were destined for Mexico markets. And it was in copper ore, concentrates, electronics, and aircraft engines and parts. So if you look over here to the right, this small graph over here, this shows our neighboring states who also border Mexico, and Arizona is positioned to do a lot more trade now with Mexico due to the investments that are happening at our ports of entry. Collectively, all of our ports of entry are receiving investments, and in Mexico, they are improving the logistics for the ports of entry on their side as well. So we are creating more opportunities, and we hope to see this 4.7% grow into double digits within the next 5 years, which I believe it will once those investments are made. So in the US is one of our largest trading partners, is also Mexico, and the drivers for that are aerospace and defense. 50% of the US share is going to Mexico, and automotive, this is the 7th largest automotive producer in the world. And the number of cars that are coming back to the US is one of our largest imports from Mexico. Energy and environmental technologies, oil, gas, renewables, electricity. From 2021, ongoing oil and gas and clean energy projects, continue to grow our export with Mexico. Industrial materials. So we have a lot of materials, mining and raw materials like that are always important to the supply chain, and ICT and digital continue to be the 5 main investment sectors for Mexico and the US. So Mexico stands at the top of the US supplier for motor vehicles and motor vehicle parts. An average 38% of Mexico production per sector for mining, manufacturing, wholesale trade, and agriculture have more than 50% coming into the US. These 4 sectors alone are responsible for 84% of the total dollar value generated from exports to the US, accounting for $664 billion out of $787 billion. So that shows the importance of this relationship. And with manufacturing being the #1 industry sector, followed by wholesale trade, mining, and then transportation and warehousing. Agriculture is a big player in the transportation and warehousing as well. So what does that mean for our economic impact with just our relations with Mexico and the number of people who are crossing daily to spend dollars in the US? So that direct employment is over 60,000 people cross every day into the US. That labor income is 1.8 billion. A value added is 2.7 with an output of $5 billion. Now, when you add in the multiplier effects, that becomes $12 billion. And that is just with spending and the labor that is coming into the US every day. Now, one of the things that is a detriment to our ability to grow the trade industry is the wait time. And even showing results, there's been lots of studies, and a reduction of 10 minutes is $26 million each month in cargo. If we can reduce that wait time by 10 minutes, it's $312 million annually from Mexico to the United States with just that 10-minute reduction in wait time. And it also shows that a 10-minute reduction in wait time would increase by 5.4 million the spending that I just showed you on the previous slide. So looking at our border crossing here in San Luis, we have not returned to the northbound total, and we have not returned to our truck northbound either. And wait times is one of the main reasons that is such an issue. We've had some delays due to national changes in policy. And one of the things that we really need to do better is work closer with the users of the port, have the users of the port in those conversations when policy is being developed and when rules are being implemented, because a lot of times these things are done in a vacuum, and those who are directly affected aren't included in these decisions. So we are trying to create better dialogue with our legislation on both sides of the border about improving the flows for both people and goods, reducing wait times, and not being reactionary to some of the political jargon that is in the news sometimes, and having that industry sector driving more of these decisions, and the users of the port being engaged in how these decisions are made. So the key takeaways today is Arizona is reliant on Mexico. It is our #1 trading partner. The number of times that we have people going back and forth, goods going back and forth is overwhelming. And the fact that we do have federal dollars coming into our market to improve that flow is critically important. And we know that the infrastructure on the Mexico side is also being improved. We just celebrated the groundbreaking for renovations to our San Luis Port 1, which was very antiquated and not safe for a lot of our CBP workers because of the bottleneck that was created with the infrastructure. And both sides of the border in Mexico and in the US, these things are going to be improved, and it will be painful during this process, but once it is done, it will definitely change some of these outputs that I reported today. We are looking forward to having higher outputs in both pedestrian and commercial traffic, and in dollars that are coming and going across our border. So that is the highlight for my presentation today, is the fact that we need Mexico, and we are grateful to be their neighbor, and we look forward to further improving our flow of goods and people. And I will be happy to answer questions at the end, and I will turn it back over to you, Alejandro.
Thank you, Julie. That's a wealth of information. Thank you for sharing that with the audience. We'll turn it over now to Arturo. Arturo Fernandez is the president and founder of Sonora Global, an economic development agency from the private initiative. His professional experience includes board member of Hemso Group, Grupo Empresarial Sonorense, and Helios Group, focused on the automotive sector, flower industry, greenhouses, real estate, financial, agriculture, and franchising. He's also vice president of the Competitiveness Commission of Coparmex Nacional. He's the program coordinator of Hermosillo, Como Vamos, and he is the advisor to the IMMPC, the Mexican Institute of Best Corporate Practices. Arturo earned 3 bachelor's degrees from the U of A on marketing, financial management, and economics, as well as the Senior Business Management Program 82 of IPADE. Arturo, the floor is all yours. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. First of all, good morning. It is a pleasure for me to be invited to this panel organized by Forefronted, and an honor to be in the company of my colleagues, Julie, Engel, and Alejandro Figueroa. I also want to thank my friend, Fernandez, Executive Director of Forefronted, for the invitation, and also congratulate the organizers of this panel series for the efforts and for the commitment to economic development and regional integration, which is so important these days. Today, I will talk about the challenges and opportunities of the supply chain in the state of Sonora from the Sonora point of view. And first of all, I would like to share some information really quickly about what Sonora Global is. Sonora Global is a privately funded organization that promotes the strategic advantages of the state of Sonora for investment attraction and retention, driving the economic and industrial development of the region. Our objectives are uniting and strengthening the local business sector with a clear vision of a city, state, and the country, of course, promoting, attracting, and retaining national and foreign investment in Sonora, streamlining the successful establishment of manufacturing operations in the region, creating new business opportunities for our members and allies, and finally, integrating the integration of clusters for further growth and strengthening of the industrial supply chain. Something that I will try to talk about a little further down the road on this presentation. This is where we see great opportunities in the state of Sonora, particularly in the supply chains. The vocation of the state of Sonora has been evolving in the last 50 years. We can see here on this graph how industrial activity has increased from representing about 20% of GDP to nearly 50%, while agricultural sector, which used to represent almost 30%, now only represents about 7.4%. In particular, in the manufacturing transportation equipment, including the automotive and aerospace industry, accounts for about 28% of exports. The electrical and the electronic industry, which is part of the precision manufacturing industry, follows closely with about 17%. It is in the integration of these industries that we also see great opportunities. Regarding the inputs for export manufacturing, only 21% are domestically manufactured. The rest come from foreign and non-local suppliers. Here we also see a great opportunity. Here we can see the presence of some of the major companies in the automotive industry, although the cluster is integrated by more than 90 companies in the sector. These are just some of the main players in this industry. The Bronco and the Maverick are two of the vehicles produced in the state, and the automotive industry generates about 53,000 jobs. And an interesting fact is that the Ford plant has a multiplier effect in the supply chain. For every job created on the production plant, on the production floor, 11 jobs are generated in the supply chain. However, not everything in this industry in the state of Sonora depends on the Ford plant, as the automotive industry produces parts that are supplied to other manufacturers, including Lucid in Casa Grande, Arizona, Nikola, and even Tesla, which also receives parts that are produced in the state of Sonora. In the aerospace industry, we can see here some of the key players, such as Latecoere, Rolls-Royce, General Electric, AT Engine, and many others. Sonora is a national leader in turbine manufacturing, aircraft MRO, or maintenance, repair, and overhaul, with over 70 companies located in the state of Sonora. This industry has been growing at a rate of 15% annually for the last 10 years and promises to continue an aggressive growth in the coming years. This is where we see great opportunities in the state of Sonora. Due to its privileged geographical location, it is positioned to be the ideal destination for investments in this and other industries. We are in the process currently, and this is something that I think is important to talk about, in the process of integrating clusters. Of course, the automotive industry, the automotive cluster in Sonora has existed since 1980 when the Ford plant arrived in Hermosillo. However, a formal organization to integrate all relevant actors in this industry had not yet been established. Today, there are about 90 automotive companies, and we are in the process of formally establishing the automotive cluster of the state of Sonora as a business organization with a dedicated staff for the integration, strengthening, and linking companies in the supply chain. This process will provide great opportunities to integrate into the supply chain of this thriving industry in the state of Sonora. As we saw in a previous slide, many suppliers still send their products from other parts of Mexico or even from other countries. But we are promoting the possibility of bringing the suppliers closer to home, closer to the industry, closer to the manufacturing plants, or even developing new suppliers in the region. companies gain significant advantages by integrating into these cluster organizations. They share best practices. They create a strong sector front for communication with relative entities like the government, the civil society, and even the academic sector. Training also on common interest topics, identifying, prioritizing, and addressing common problems, research on relevant sector topics for decision making, technology updates and innovation, local supplier development, and the attraction of new suppliers. We are strong believers as an organization in the benefits of the industry clustering and better organization of the productive sector. We also have a constant supply of skilled labor thanks to the participation of 63 universities and 128 campuses in the state of Sonora. This generates about 900 technicians graduating each generation, 4,240 engineers, and about 1,077 graduates with a master's degree. I believe this is an important fact. According to the INCO, the Mexican Institute for Competitiveness, after comparing about 66 the largest cities in Mexico, Hermosillo is first place in average education level within the population of 25 years and older. Ciudad Obregón is a close third place. So if what we're really looking for is qualified labor available and also a low rotation rate, labor rotation rate, Sonora is the place where we can find this ideal combination. Also, Sonora has a wide availability of industrial parks and is in the process of constructing and developing many more. And there are currently 47 industrial parks strategically distributed throughout the state of Sonora and 2 technology parks within the state. However, the state government of Sonora has announced the construction of 6 more industrial parks in collaboration with the private sector. These industrial parks will be located in San Luis Rio Colorado, Nogales, Agua Prieta, Hermosillo, Guaymas, and Ciudad Obregón. We also know of several private industrial parks being developed by large developers and investors from Monterrey, Tijuana, Querétaro, and other locations and other states. Sonora is particularly attractive for these types of investment because it has large land areas available with public services, quality infrastructure, and of course, a low cost per square meter or square feet, and skilled labor and with a low turnover, as we mentioned before. So if we compare the rental cost per square meter with other cities, we will find that Sonora is a very, very attractive, has a very attractive cost for rental of industrial space. Now, it is worth mentioning a characteristic that you may have noticed about the population distribution in the state of Sonora. Unlike other border states, the population is not concentrated in small focal points. In the state of Sonora, only 33% of the population is in the city of Hermosillo. If we look at this graph and go as far back as 1921, at that time, only 7% of the population lived in Hermosillo. However, this concentration process has continued. Why I believe that this is important mentioning? Because large population concentration combined with heavy industrial labor or qualified labor demand lead to high turnover labor rates. And this phenomenon is relatively reduced in the state of Sonora given this distribution. So this is one of the advantages. Now I want to talk very quickly about this particular case. This is a case I believe everyone should know about, this company, Mefasa. And the reason is because I believe it challenges several paradigms. Befasa is an aerospace manufacturing company with contracts from the U.S. Department of Defense and other industry companies. They had about 250 employees, and they just opened this new plant with an additional 470 employees. Now, none of this is particularly surprising or important. What's important is where did they do it? Where did they do this? And the place where they decided to build this company is in Cumpas. Cumpas has under 3,000 inhabitants. They're far from the international highway, and this connects, which connects the industrial corridor. In total, the entire entity has less than 6,000 people. You can imagine what the challenges are there. This is where Cumpas is, located in the state of Sonora. And these are my friends, Carlos and Roberto Fernandez. These are the guys who started this company. And this is the impact that this company has had in the municipality. Industrial manufacturing represents now about 50%, and they have a huge part of this and responsibility for this. But I think this is something that challenges some of the paradigms that we might have about this industry. This is some of the things that they do. This is some of the production process carried out in this plant. I just wanted to share this case really quick because I think it breaks, it challenges a series of paradigms showing what can be done and where it can be done. And I would like to tell you how our friends did it, but I don't have the answer. This will have to be the topic for another panel like this. We also have this project in the state of Sonora for the construction of a technology park, which has it was put on hold during the pandemic, but it only needs a final little push to be completed. And this is a very interesting technology park built here in the surrounding areas of Hermosillo. We also have foreign direct investments, primarily from the United States, but Canada is also an important player in our states. This is due to a robust mining industry, which accounts for approximately between 11 and 12% of GDP. Hermosillo is the capital of the mining supply, with an estimated 90% of the supply base located in the city of Hermosillo. However, this is a very silent and somewhat, sometimes even kind of invisible industry, because the mining operations are in distant places away from the major cities. So this gives them very little visibility. And this is the mining cluster is the most important of all. It includes about 16 leading companies, no, 26, I'm sorry, 26 leading companies or tractor companies, for 144 supply chain members, 11 partnering universities, 7 organizations, associations, and authorities, and 15 strategic allies. And an interesting fact about this industry is that we haven't found a marriage between the extraction industry and the manufacturing industry. Where we find an important mining operation, there is not an export manufacturing operation. And where there is export manufacturing, there are no large-scale mining operations. One opportunity that we see is the value added generated by the minerals extracted by this industry, and looking for this collaboration between the manufacturing industry and the extraction industry for generating additional value. So I think this is a hidden opportunity in the state of Sonora. Of course, there are other relevant industries in the state of Sonora. Agribusiness is one of them, and the electric industry. We can see some of the major companies in the state over here. The electric and electronic industry and the medical device industry, of course. Oops. Also, the energy industry. It is important to mention that Sonora has a robust energy cluster with almost 100 members, and it is also worth noting that Sonora has an energy generation surplus. The state requires about an installed capacity of 5 gigawatts of energy for all of its consumption, for living and for commerce and industry. But the installed capacity is about 9.5 gigawatts. As part of the Sonora Energy Plan, another 5 gigawatts are being built in 5 mega projects, photovoltaic projects, along with the construction of other 40 smaller photovoltaic plants. Moreover, we already have an established information technology cluster down here, and there are some of the companies in the state of Sonora. The electric and electronic industry. We have the medical device industry, the agribusiness, and the mining industry, of course. These are some of the main players. The energy we just mentioned, information technology, some of these companies. And of course, there are several of the main industrial developers in the state of Sonora. And I think I overwent my time. So I'm going to leave it here and give it back to Alejandro. And thank you very much.
Arturo, muchísimas gracias. Great things happening in the state of Sonora. I will now move into the Q&A session once again. If anybody has any questions that they would like to have answered by our panelists, please feel free to type them in the Q&A section. I'll start with this one. It's whoever wants to answer it. Please feel free, Julie or Arturo. Much has been made of the shortages and delays for goods coming out of the pandemic. How have supply chains improved today, and where do we still need to see improvement?
I'll start. The pandemic taught us a lot. It showed us our vulnerabilities, it showed us our strengths, and it helped us identify how to strengthen up those shortfalls. And I believe that we're still suffering a little bit from shortages due to raw inputs and relationships with other countries where some of these raw inputs are coming from. The war in Ukraine really disrupted supply chain because of how many raw materials were coming out of there that are no longer available right now. So a lot of the pitfalls are kind of beyond our capability of fixing. However, what could be fixed has been, and I think that the relationship with Mexico is critical to having these inputs reach the US and identifying what is a critical input. One of the things that we learned from the pandemic is it may not seem like it is essential, but it goes into a product that is essential. And so those things were identified. And now if there's ever disruption, we know which ones have to continue producing in order to have essential products in our market continue. So I think we learned a lot from the pandemic, and I think we've improved significantly. We just, the world impacts some of the things that affect us here locally as well.
Thank you, Julie. I don't know if Arturo wants to take a stab on that one. Yes, we had a lot of companies in Mexico disappear during the pandemic crisis, but we see an increase. We have seen an increase in industrial activity, and we reached the levels that we were at before the pandemic in about last year, about the end of last year. Now I think that we have already recovered that, and we're a little bit, as a state of Sonora, we're a little bit above in regards to industrial activity. Also, we have seen companies adapt to this crisis. We see companies becoming more resilient. They became aware of the risk that this disruption exposed to the supply chains, and they have taken steps in order to become more resilient. They've been looking to diversify suppliers, bringing the suppliers closer at home, and also I've seen an increase in the demand of warehouse space because companies are looking to build up more inventory to be prepared for a situation like this. So that's how we think that companies have been adapting.
Thank you, Arturo. And there's a question from Lidia Aranda on the chat, and I know Julie has answered that in writing, but I would like to have the audience learn about it as well. Lydia is asking, what is the timing and impact of the next presidential election on the tri-national economies affecting migrant labor flows and the China nearshoring diaspora? Julie, I don't know if you want to share that with the audience. I know you already responded that to me in writing.
Yeah, it's really hard to predict the future and the outcome of what this election is going to be. It's still 2 years out. So we are hoping that it is as painless as possible and that relationships, regardless of which party, we're hoping that relationships do not deteriorate. We really need the relationships with Canada and Mexico. North America is the strongest when we're all three partnering and working collectively. We will not be, we can't, any one of us three cannot operate alone. We need each other. So those relationships have to stay in play regardless of the election outcome. So that is up to our state senators and representatives to make sure that happens. And we are in constant contact with them. And they have been to our border region multiple times, and they understand the importance of this, as well as the importance of Canada. So we're hoping that it will not be disruptive. And that's really, it's just so hard to predict the future.
Any comments, Arturo?
Well, I strongly agree with Julie. We need, Mexico can be that strategic partner that can help the US and Canada to compete in this international environment. So keeping a good relationship with our most important partners is essential for the growth of the supply chain industry, and I mean the manufacturing industry. So hopefully this will not affect the relationship between the three countries, and we need to strengthen it. We actually, I just want to add something that might be a little bit of this issue, but we believe that we need to build a real Arizona, Sonora business environment, business relationship between companies in Mexico and companies in the US. Unfortunately, we have seen very little activity from the Arizona Mexico Commission or the Sonora Arizona Commission. We hope that this will be revived and that we can, because that's a very important platform for development of this relationship between the two states. So hopefully that will pick up again.
It sure is, Arturo. Thank you for that. And we've got a question from Vanessa Bell, and she says, how can collaboration and information sharing among stakeholders be improved to ensure a rapid response to emerging challenges in the supply chain? And I can repeat that question if you want me to. How can collaboration and information sharing among stakeholders be improved to ensure a rapid response to emerging challenges in the supply chain?
I'm going to let Arturo start.
All right. We have had I believe we can improve the availability of information, especially regarding infrastructure and industrial space availability. There are some states that have more information available than others, but I think we can work on improving these platforms in order to have all of that information more rapidly and widely available. So I think the standardizing the standardization of this information could be one way to improve that, and also improving the availability of these platforms or the access. They should be easy to find. They should be easy to explore, and I think we can work on that. We have been actually working on improving the availability of that information for the state of Sonora. Hopefully, we will have a better access and more widely available information soon.
And I think relationships are critical for this as well. Our custom brokers and our 3PL users of the port have an incredible relationship with Customs and Border Protection. And so when there are issues and delays, they can pick up the phone and call them right away. And that has sustained time and turnover. It has been able to be consistent regardless of retirees and things like that. So we need to maintain those relationships and make sure that communication is open and that both sides are available for communication, because the users of the port, I keep reiterating this, but the users of the port need to be in these decisions. And so they have to be able to be heard immediately. They're the ones who feel the effect immediately if there's any kind of change or any disruption. And so they have to be able to communicate quickly. And I think we do have a good relationship here where that is doable. So we need to continue with that and maybe improve upon it if it isn't as good as it used to be. So that's all I would add.
Thank you both. And thank you also to Vanessa Bell, who has submitted a second question. Thank you for engaging with the panel, Vanessa. Her question is, has the panel seen supply chain leverage emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, or Internet of Things to enhance their capabilities? I'll repeat that question. Has the panel seen supply chain leverage emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, or Internet of Things to enhance their capabilities?
It's inevitable. It's definitely going to happen, especially artificial intelligence. And it seems like the adoption of some of these things is slower in the public sector than it is in the private sector. In the private sector, because they will adopt it faster, they will be the ones applying pressure to the public sector to implement some of these changes. But it is inevitable. It is going to happen. I think some of it is happening already. I can't really articulate where those changes are happening, but I do know that a lot of our shippers do use artificial intelligence. And excuse me, it's more about the industrial side and the loads and how to protect the loads longer and things like that. But it will eventually hit the public sector too, due to pressure from the private sector, who will adopt much faster.
Yes, I could add that, I mean, recently we had the visit of a specialist in two particular areas, in legal issues and artificial intelligence. I know it's a interesting combination, but one of the points that she mentioned is that this artificial intelligence platforms can do about 43% of everything that a lawyer can do as of today. So that should increase the reaction time in order to find out more about the legal implications of trade, and also should probably have an impact on cost. So this should also help for the development and for the reaction time of supply chains, I believe.
Thank you both. And I'll follow up with a question from Mr. Ross Jones, and it's probably directed to Julie and Forefront TD, Nasser, or myself. And I lost track of the question. Let me see. We move right now. Give me a second. So, question was around, if the GYDC and the Forefront TD should consider joining the Board of Trade Alliance? And has that happened in the past? Has GYDC or 4FRONT-TD been involved at all?
GYDC has been a member of the Board of Trade Alliance multiple times, and we do need to re-engage with them. Sometimes the big player in the room is Texas, and it's a little overwhelming. And but BTA is critical to these relationships that I've been describing. And the BTA is also where I found a lot of the statistics that I shared today and in my presentation. They are they generate a lot of data, and they do have the ear of both industry and public sectors. And so they're a strong organization, and it is important for us to be a member. I agree with Russ 100%.
Thank you, Julie. We also got a question from City of Yuma Councilman, Mr. Gary Knight. He says, what do you see as the role of Greater Yuma Port Authority going forward?
A port authority is absolutely critical to the foundation of having industries consider this area. Without a port authority being that voice in DC, being that voice at the BTA, and because they are a member of the BTA, and so they are absolutely critical to the sustainability of this port being an industrial port, even more so at San Luis One, because our port authority has been serving lots of different interests, but it's now they have the opportunity to truly be a functioning port authority. And I'm very excited about what that will look like and how we're able to capitalize on the strength of a port authority. Because when I always compare us to Texas. Texas has had so many successes, and their port authorities are so strong, and they are that voice in DC when it comes to lobbying for. We need them for, especially the labor, being able to cross labor faster, easier, et cetera, et cetera. So the Port Authority is critical. I don't want to belabor it, but I did, sorry.
Thank you, Julie. And I would like to, if I may, one last question to Arturo. Is there a Port Authority in Sonora? Is there a similar organization or a counterpart to port authorities in the state of Sonora that you know of?
Yes, would be the autoridades aduanales, and I mean this would be, but there's also been greater involvement of the military in Mexico in most of the ports, airports and seaports, and so that has been a tendency in the last few years. So I think that would be the ones feeling that responsibility.
Great, thank you, Arturo. Thank you both for your time, and thank you for answering those questions. Thank you for the audience for engaging with our panel. I will move forward and turn it over to Nasser Mendez, who's the director of the 4FRONT-TD, for some closing remarks.
Can I just say one more thing,
Arturo,
or Alejandro, please? I just want to thank Arturo and tell you how jealous I am of all the investment that's happening. We're very envious, and hopefully we will look like, I mean, as a state, we are growing in exponential numbers, but we want our border to replicate what you're doing too. So those investments are so important, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. I look forward to being in contact in the future. Hopefully we can talk furthermore after this panel. So thank you very much.
Thank you both again. Nasser.
Thank you, Alejandro. On behalf of the 4FRONT-TD Governing Group, I would like to thank Julie, Arturo, and Alejandro for being part of this important project. Being part of this webinar series is essential to keep promoting economic development, economic growth in our mega region. On the other hand, I would like to invite everyone to join us on August the 10th at 11 a.m. Arizona time for the third and last episode of this webinar series, which is about the economic impact of Lithium Valley, which is located in Imperial County, California, and that will wrap up this webinar series. and that will be an asset for our binational microregion as well. Thanks, everyone. You did a great job, as always. Gracias a todos, la audiencia que se ha unido a este panel. Manténganse conectados a través de las redes sociales de Forefront ID para más información importante en temas de crecimiento, desarrollo económico, entre otros. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time, and I look forward to working with you from Yuma County in the state of Sonora, and obviously with our partners UIDC and Forefront TV. Thank you all for your time, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thanks. Bye-bye.